Hello, everyone. Welcome to GTM Expertise. Today, we're welcoming Manali. So thank you for taking the time, Manali, to join us here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
No worries at all. So today, we're going to talk a bit about product-led growth, PLG, and how that's shaping some of the interactions that humans have. Now we're into the AI era of product launches and products themselves in AI. So super excited to get into that. But before we get into it, Manali, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about you. What's your journey been like? What's your career look like? What are you doing now? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I've been in kind of the growth sphere for a little over 10 years now. I started out when growth wasn't actually growth. It was just called marketing.
Yeah.
My career has just been a trajectory of just slowly acquiring growth skills. So I worked at ad agencies, large enterprise companies, um, you know, startups. So right now I'm currently the founder of Small Table Studios. We are a product-led growth and behavioral design studio. And our whole role here is to help startups, particularly late seed to Series B startups, understand the role of product led growth and how to architect these systems with the age of AI and how to really use that kind of behavioral design element to their advantage, given that everyone is kind of either for AI or against AI, and you don't want AI to kind of, be like a detractor in your product.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great intro.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's start with the basics a little bit for those who are learning a little bit. We have plenty of founders who work with kind of sales-led growth as well as product-led growth, but just to kind of like level set at the moment, product-led growth is where product is the primary GTM
hmm
engine, if you like, or that's
Yep.
where it's centered around. But like,
Yep.
what does that mean? What does that mean now? Can you give me an example of a product-led growth platform that you've worked on, or something that maybe someone
Yeah.
can kind of think about, and how that differentiates itself from, say, sales-led?
Yeah. So product-led growth, to your point, it's a system of things that need to happen. Sales-led growth, obviously, is very human forward. Product-led kind of puts the onus on the product to take you through the very initial elements of what the USP of the product is. So product-led growth typically works as a hybrid with sales-led growth, in the sense that product-led growth will attack those people that okay, maybe they come in at like a lower price point, they're not a huge enterprise client, but your platform would still be a fit. So it would bring in those people and act as more of a kind of go to market channel for those types of people. And then sales led growth works hand in hand, where there's a handoff usually that occurs in product led growth on expansion or upsell over to sales led growth. So it kind of helps the sales team focus on what they need to focus on in terms of their numbers without having to take, these like smaller quote unquote accounts into their book of business.
Awesome. Great
Yeah.
intro. And I love the differentiation there. So
Yeah.
um, let's think about that a little bit more around the motion, right? So I think a lot of people on or certainly my sphere of influence tells me a lot more about how AI is helping sales led growth, whether you are it's simply just helping write copy, simply thinking about outbound, thinking about target audiences and how you can get in front of them with the right message at the right time, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. How has AI started to change the product-led growth sphere?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because the introduction of AI has made product led growth less deterministic in the sense of product led growth. People follow this basic model or used to where it's okay, onboarding, milestone moment one, milestone moment two, aha moment. Conversion, right? That's kind of the overall gist that people know. With AI, product led growth also has to act as a trust indicator for the user as well. Because when you're using a product that has AI integrated into it, you're not only trying to get to those value moments, but those value moments really matter a lot less because they don't determine the actual activation moment of the product. So I'll give you an example. Let's take Grammarly, for example. So Grammarly is a very well known tool. With Grammarly, if you were to think about it maybe in a typical PLG sense, Grammarly would say, okay, hey, the time to first value, our first AI moment, or sorry, our first value moment would be when the user first accepts our first suggestion, right? That is what would be typical PLG. When you introduce AI or you introduce what they're doing, that's not necessarily true because even though the user may have accepted the first suggestion, what they need to do is build trust. They need to really get to a place where they're determining that I've accepted it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Maybe after a certain set of exceptions from the user, that's when the activation moment is really kind of triggered. So I would say it kind of pushes the activation moment a bit back and puts the
Mm.
onus on the AI to build the trust for the activation moment.
That's super interesting. I think I kind of relate that to how a lot of people use AI today, in that it's less deterministic, right? Like
Yeah.
I think throwing whatever you're throwing into AI, whether it's a kind of GPT or through another platform, a model, I think it's a little less deterministic what's going to come back. And to your point, the trust of whether you're going to trust what does come back, and therefore you're confident that it's going to service you into the future. Because AI can often give you the value on one day, and then the next day it's not as valuable.
Yeah.
And then you start questioning whether you're using the right tool, whether AI is for you, or whether you should be really putting more human into what you're doing.
Yeah.
How is that? Is that how you're seeing it? Like, is that what you mean by that trust, and that moment of value is because it is a little less deterministic now?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I would say yes. It's because it is less deterministic. You need to make sure, if you have an AI product, it needs to be a darn good one, because
Right.
people are like they're, subconsciously matching or comparing your AI to every other major AI, every other like major LLM out there, quite honestly.
Yep.
So if your AI does not match up, then they are subconsciously losing trust in your product. And that's just, I mean, it's a fact because we're overloaded with information right now. And I'll tell you something. I feel like the user getting to this trust or activation moment in the product actually starts with external go to market, because when they come in to an AI product, they are already having some sort of subconscious set of here is what I am expecting from the product. So
Mm.
go to market plays a huge role in product led growth in AI, because it's kind of like teeing up the user to either kind of hit the ball or miss the ball.
Right.
And if the user does not come in with the appropriate knowledge, then you've already kind of lost 25% of the trust
Hmm.
that now the product has the onus of building back.
That's super relatable to something like, I guess, a high considered purchase. So,
Yeah.
like car or things like this today, if you even go to the showroom, which is probably questionable
Yeah.
these days, if you do go to the showroom, you've already done 90% of the work, and the
Yeah.
salesperson kind of is really expecting you to say, well, which model are you interested in, rather than you
Yeah.
going, well, by the way, cars have 4 wheels and a steering wheel,
Exactly.
right? You know what I mean? So that sounds very similar to that. And I guess my other thought around that is just the quantity of products that are now out on the market is, I mean, I haven't seen any numbers, but my feeling is that because the bar has been lowered to creating a product, firstly, the onus on great products to be seen as great is
Yep.
even more important. And that bar is
Yep.
like hard because there's a lot of like reasonably good platforms out there.
Yep.
And therefore, your GTM of explaining why you are better than all those other ones that have been created in the past 2 days, even, it
Yeah.
is quite, because those tools that we all paid for or relied on 6 years ago to put together all of this go-to-market machine to tell everyone about this great product. Well, all of those are in the hands of everyone now. So, like,
Yep.
how do you see that, and how do you think this kind of like sea of new products on the market affects everyone's go-to-market strategy?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because everyone is kind of saying the same thing. If you look at the
Mm.
broader ecosystem of AI enabled platforms, the messaging is kind of the same, understandably, because when you're AI, you really, like, if you think about it, what is the purpose of AI? The core purpose of AI is to either make a workflow easier, to kind of take some work off of your hands and make your kind of systems, operations, workflows just much, much easier in the context of what this platform is. So, everyone is promising, build your first website in 5 minutes or less, build beautiful websites with AI, do this, do that. But the issue is that when you say something like that, then you have really primed your user that, hey, I can actually do this in 5 minutes or less. And that
Mm.
is exactly the pain point that they will be looking to solve. So if you are not confident that your product can reliably do this at least 90 to 95% of the time, my personal opinion is that you should actually steer away from bold claims like this in the
Mm,
broader system, because everyone's doing that. And that's how users are losing trust in AI within the product. I've seen a lot of great concepts, right? Like a lot of great platforms, a lot of great concepts where they're like, we can help you build this or we can help you build that. But a lot of them fail, quite honestly, because
mm,
they think by stating a bold claim, they can gauge what the user can mold and think when they get in the product. But everyone's used AI, at least in tech, to some capacity, right?
yep.
We all know what we're looking for. And if you can't meet that bar, then that's where that go to market will kind of backfire on you. That's like the messaging.
Yeah, and I think your comment there around bold claims, like a good example, we in our business we've even used our tools to build websites, right? And so you go, okay, you likes of Lovable, Bolt, Replit,
Yeah.
like all of those. There's loads of them, absolutely loads of them now.
Yeah.
Ironically, all being built on AI as well. So this is kind of
Yeah.
like sea of stuff like going on. And you get into them and they're all kind of feel the same, like you say.
Yeah.
Like everyone's kind of saying the same thing. You can build it really quickly. You get into them. But, my experience is, I've tried probably 6 or 7 of them, right? And you get to a point with all of them, often a different part of it, but you get a different part of it and you get a frustration, right? Like
Yeah.
either it doesn't build the first result after giving it a really good prompt is terrible and you go, this is
Yep.
going to be a lot of work. You move to the next one. You look at the next one. You go, well, actually, I really want to host it external. I don't want to use their hosting. Can I export this afterwards?
Yeah.
Actually, they said you can, but actually you can't.
Yeah.
Or they lock you into a third party, and you quickly go through these. That might be only a day's work, and you've gone through 6 or 7
Yeah.
platforms. There's
Yep.
no way 5 years ago you would have done that. You'd have like educated you more before you even sign up, right? And I think that kind of first, well, I want to say even 30 minutes of an experience with a
100.
platform is super critical, or probably even more critical than it used to be.
Yeah.
How do you think about that when you were advising your clients on how they think about that kind of experience? It sounds like one of them is if you can't actually deliver on the claim that you're doing, just getting them into the platform by making bold claims, which you probably can't stand up to, is probably a bad idea, because you're going to end in like a high sign up rate and a high churn rate, right?
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I have a lot of maybe great tactical tips for anyone who's listening. So this is where the power of behavioral design comes into play, right? But with behavioral design, you're really taking the psychology of the user and you're designing around that. And I genuinely think that's like a very big distinction of how you
Mm,
can get ahead with when you think of PLG AI and go to market. So the concept of behavioral design is that information alone does not change behavior. For if I were to tell you, hey, eating that cookie is gonna, not let you meet your goals, or if I were to tell you, hey, if you kind of like smoke that, like
yep. Yeah.
your lungs are gonna get messed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But knowing that information, we still eat the cookie. You know what I mean? We're like,
Sure.
yeah, because the cause or the output of what is happening is so far in the future that we
Mm,
can't even begin to understand the immediate effect. So that kind of applies to behavioral design, where when you're thinking about building out a go-to-market kind of like function or loop, when you're thinking about the messaging, the landing page, the onboarding screens, think about what is the immediate next step that the user should feasibly feel, and don't promise something that's far in the future, right? So if you're like a revenue ops platform and you say, hey, we're going to clean up your whole revenue ops system and you'll be good to go in 90 days. Great. Okay, but what am I, like that then tells user, okay, but what if I need it now? So instead of thinking about it in 90 days, say, hey, we'll clean up X, Y, and Z system. So maybe not your whole system, but we'll
mm,
clean this smaller part up in the first week. So now
yeah.
you've told the user exactly what you're going to clean up, and you're giving them a time frame that is more acceptable. So that's kind of how I would think about this in the age of AI, is really think about one key behavior at a time and think about how you can map to that key behavior. And again, information does not change behavior alone. So you have to really make it a little bit more palatable for the user.
Yeah, right. So in another way, you're saying bite everything off in chunks. Don't
Yeah.
try and eat the whole thing, right? You're saying specifically, I can attack this part of your business quite quickly. I'm sure, like after that, you might go. that was good, that was bad, or let's move to the next stage. And you're kind of, again, building trust. You talk about adoption and retention and trust. Like
Yeah.
those elements are more built around like small value points that can be proved quite quickly,
Yeah.
that you can go on. Like if I read some info, you talk about information alone. If I read information alone on a website which says like, this company changed my life.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But like that doesn't give me anything. And
Yeah.
yeah, I probably I have more questions than others. Versus if they said, yeah, look, our pipeline lasted, or sorry, lead to close was actually 9 months. Now it's only 7 months.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot more kind of, well, yeah, like incremental improvement,
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
going to blow your world up, but like at least you
Yeah.
go, well, that's realistic actually. And more,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll even tell you, this works really well as well when you're in the product. And let's just say you've noticed like someone has dropped off and you're like,
Right.
I don't really know how to get them back. And you make this claim of come back. And if you come back with this 20% off coupon code, your ops system will be like cleaned up really
Yeah.
well. If you don't do this, you're going to lose blah, blah, blah access.
Yeah.
Again, information does not change behavior. Does the user care enough about this long-term goal that you're setting? So
Yeah.
I'd recommend rethinking something like that into hey, come back. Or if you have like a retention email sequence, just break it up. Don't put like a come back and and you're not getting this. Kind of say, hey, um, you're missing out on X, Y, and Z in the next 5 days. This is what you could accomplish if you re-engage with our platform in the next 5 days. And just make it a little bit more palatable, right? Because the user doesn't care if they're going to lose access to your system in 90 days. What they do care is that they're missing out on the opportunity to maybe like clean up this data in 10 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so just like shift the goalpost a little closer.
Yeah. Because I think, as we all probably are, getting signed up to many more platforms than we used to, receiving emails with discount codes and kind of come back to us, well, A, seems a little bit desperate, I think, is
Yeah.
one thing. And you're like, the finances alone are not why I'm going to choose to use you, because your ROI on my business, if I use your product, should be far outweighing how much I pay for you these
Yes.
days. I think the ROI is not incremental. It's like,
Yep.
it should be a big lever pull. Like I should be able to get like a huge amount of ROI from you. So it's actually a put off for many. I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like it's a put off for you to just say 20% off this, 20% off that. The only bit, like I'm going to throw this to you in case you can give me an opinion. Like we seem to have shifted, especially AI products these days. They feel like they're all coin operated, right? So
Yeah.
like they're all like token driven,
Yeah.
and to the layperson, a token means nothing. To the tech person, okay, they understand what a token is, but even then, you don't really know what's going to be happening behind the scenes. And so,
Yeah.
this concept of like on a screen, and I see like, okay, it's like $20 a month, and you get 1,000 tokens. If you pay $50 a month, you get 10,000 tokens, and you go, wow, I get 10x tokens for only
Yeah.
2.5x the money. But like, what does that even mean? I mean, can I even
Yeah.
build my website on 3 tokens, or do I need
Yep.
3,000? I feel like in the past, it was like quite straightforward. In SaaS, it would be kind of like, okay, how many gigabytes of storage have I got? How many video views have I got? How many, whatever. And it was kind
Exactly.
of a bit tangible. Now it's this
Yeah.
sort of amorphous, like almost Las Vegas style, like token generation thing that I've got to kind of get my head around. And I still, for everyone out there, I don't know, what do you think of that? Like, do you find that is a behavioral component to someone looking at a platform, and it's kind of like a bit too amorphous? I feel
Yeah.
like I'm getting into something which in a week I'm gonna have to keep topping up,
Yeah.
to stay in the platform. How does that feel?
Yeah. So I agree with you. It's definitely confusing. I would recommend, so I think that Lovable has actually attacked this exact issue extremely
Interesting.
well, because Lovable does operate on tokens
Yep.
technically, but what Lovable has done is, again, in terms of go to market, they've put the messaging in USP is more of the forethought than it is in the background. So
Okay.
you won't even see a mention of a token or a pricing plan until after you've used their AI to a certain extent. That is
Right.
just a fact, because probably know that, okay, this person is not coming here to learn about tokens or learn about a pricing model. They're
No.
coming here because they kind of want to vibe code something and they want to see if they can
Yep.
do something, right? So they let you experience the USP first in a very natural way. And then afterwards, they will say, hey, by the way, you've created this really cool thing. Here's here's the next plan that would probably fit you. And the way
Right.
that they show it is in monthly prices, which is really easy to palette for someone rather than, hey, like, here's 10,000 more tokens. Do you want to pay X amount of dollars?
Yeah.
That's not, so if you kind of, you have to fit the user psychology of what's actually happening and what people can palette. And Lovable has done that very well, I think.
That's nice.
So,
That's a
yeah,
great example. I'd encourage people to look at that then, because I
yeah,
think my feeling around, like, if it's front and center to the solution, like to the point where you start making edits or changes on AI, and then that counter in the corner is going up and it's getting closer to
yeah,
my limit, and you go, well, maybe I don't really, because for a lot of AI companies, the more you use it, the better they are, the more cost goes up, but hopefully the revenue goes up as well. That's kind of like the
yeah,
idea, right? And so
yeah,
I want my customers to continue using it and not worrying about that meter,
yeah,
because if the moment I start thinking, okay, the next time I type this, it better be something I really want,
yeah,
I'm already like devaluing the solution. Whereas what I
yeah,
want to get in there is just carry on. I think, even for a real small example was, like, they started, whenever they did, it might have been a year ago now, like adding the feature where you could chat with it first to see how it would think about it, which
yeah,
was kind of token free, and then you could
yeah,
implement it afterwards. That switch immediately for me was a really nice way of them saying, and everyone's kind of copied that at the moment, which is
yeah,
which is great, because ultimately, for it to think and implement are two different things. And
yeah,
if you're looking for a thinking partner first before you're looking at implementing partner, right? Rather than it all wrapped
exactly.
together. So that's a good example. I like that. I like that
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. Exactly. You actually said that was really interesting. Lovable knows, right? Like the end result is that you want to create something, but
Right.
that's not what you want to do right now. So they've actually done like the behavioral design component really well, because they understand to create, you need to think. So they've allowed you, they haven't set the goalposts at creating, they've set the goalposts at thinking.
Mm,
So what I would recommend for anyone listening is map out a user journey. What is the ultimate goal that you want your user to do? And literally sit there. It can be on paper, it can be a Miro, whatever. But map out every single tiny inconsequential step where you think, okay, yes, technically the user would need to log in, open page A, open page B. And this will help
yeah.
you do what Lovable has done, is really understand, okay, what is the key action that AI is implementing right now for in my platform that enables me to go the whole way. And that can be a super big unlock.
That's great advice. I think people should take a look at that. What are the other things that you would advise people to look at in this year as they start to get into changing the game? I guess my advice is always, as well, to a lot of people, experiment. We've had a lot of people give us great advice on this podcast already around, like, you might make thousands of experiments, but like only a few of them are going to make a big impact, but you still need to
Yeah.
make those experiments. And don't think of this as like some massive, huge reorganization of your GTM. Like,
Yeah.
you need to like make small changes and measure them. Is that something that you're seeing now? Is that taking effect? Are companies doing that? What do you advise?
Yeah. I would agree. When it comes to experimentation, the more niche, the more granular, the better. Taking
Right.
massive big bets, to your point, um, there's a lot of variables that you can't control in big bets. That's just the reality of the situation. If you look at a smaller bet and you say, hey, I want to know if we do this tiny action on this screen, we've seen
Mm,
a lot of traffic on. We know it's, right in our site of activation.
mm.
Does X happen? So really like holding the control variable steady and only switching one thing that people will engage with is, I think, the right way to go about experimentation there.
Yeah, nice. And
Yeah.
what else are you doing with your clients with regards to behavioral design in terms of like do you still sort of talk to a small subset of users and get their opinions like, hey,
Yeah.
we're thinking of A or B, what do you prefer? Like, is that still part of the process for you with your clients? And are you seeing success in that in doing those kind of experiments, or are they more, I'm going to do an A B C D E test completely blind and see what comes up? Like, what's kind of the strategy at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, that very much depends on, I think, bandwidth and resources.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a very big proponent of advocacy. Like, I still talk to my clients. I'm on calls with them, talking to them,
Yep.
really understanding what are your pain points? What exactly is stopping you from moving from this screen to this screen, right? And but that's because the resource is there. My bandwidth is
Right.
there. So it's very much dependent, but I do think that if you can get on the phone, always do, especially with your
Mm,
highest engaged users or the user that you think is dead set in your ICP, because obviously nothing is more enlightening than a face-to-face interaction and hearing a pain point. And
yeah.
when you start doing that, you start building an advocacy flywheel for your own product. So it kind of becomes then like a go-to-market motion as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked to quite a few recently about communities and user groups and kind of like
Yeah.
the power even today of a human warm introduction or recommendation or whatever it might be, because those are super valuable still today, and arguably more so because of the amount of research. Going back to our sort of start points around how much research you do today to come in.
Yeah.
You want to educate your user before they get in, so when they
Yep.
land, it's just nice and smooth and like. But to do all that research as a human before you do, for every tool that you're going to use, it's a lot, right? And so we
Yep.
still take a lot of social indication from our close network, people we trust, and those advocacy kind of conversations to be able to get into a particular product. How are you seeing that take effect in real life? Like, what are they getting user groups together, or is it more of a virtual digital environment? Like, what are you seeing in terms of advocacy? Because I think that is really quite important still today.
Yeah. So one, I'm a huge proponent of advocacy being done by the product team. I think
Mm,
product is actually in this AI day and age, should be front and center on every, at least one representative or in some way be front and center on these calls or in
yep.
these communities. But what I am being seeing done is, I'll just tell you, what I'm doing is
Mm,
that very up and in the weeds of creating kind of like build in public beta groups, really trying to understand, okay, how does this tie directly into the product, giving users a sense of this is a partner rather than a product, which I
mm,
think, again, to your point, you want to humanize this as much as possible. They don't want to know that they're talking to like someone who is just a part of a product team who then goes back to report. No, I am your person. I am your point person. If you have a problem, you come to me. When you come to these cohort calls, you tell me what's up. You know what I mean? So it needs to be
yep.
seen as a, hey, I'm having an issue with your product. I don't trust it. This person will come to a cohort call or talk to someone from product, and then product will then determine, obviously, like if it's priority or not, whatnot. But I think that is the channel that I recommend, at least when you're like small enough to do that, because those early users will be one of the best users, and they will start your word of mouth for you initially.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, those are great tips. I mean, we've heard a lot of great practical tips today on how to think about your product led growth strategy in the world of AI, and I'm sure there's a lot of founders out there who are grateful for your time. So there's a great place to finish, I think. Manali, appreciate your time.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
coming
me.
on and sharing all your experience and wealth of knowledge. It's really it was really interesting to chat.
Yay, I'm glad. Yeah, thanks for having me. I loved the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Manali. Take care.
Thanks.
See
Bye.
you.